All right. No, I'm talking to the kids that are in the audience today. All right, so I'd like to welcome everybody to our City of Healdsburg City Council Redevelopment Agency regular meeting. It's 6 o'clock, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. Raina, could you do a quick roll call, please?
Councilmember Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Harrod.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly. Here. Vice Mayor Mitchell.
Here.
Mayor Hagley.
Here. Now, if everybody could join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next up is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. That is approved. We did not have any closed sessions. And first up, we have announcements and presentations with an update on efforts to bring the SMART train to Healdsburg. Eddie, welcome.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council members. My name is Eddie Cummins. I'm the Smart Train General Manager. I'm very happy to be here tonight to share an update about the Healdsburg Smart Train extension. Can we go to the next slide, please? It's been a tremendous amount of progress that's taken place over the past couple of months. Just to highlight a few things, in September, the SMART Board of Directors approved a contract for project delivery, cost estimating, and procurement support for this project. And then in October, the MTC Commission amended Plan Bay Area to include the Healdsburg extension. This council knows very well that that's been a long time coming and something that is a huge milestone for us that'll be very helpful in the future. And then the big news came on October 23rd. The state of California awarded SMART $81 million for the Healdsburg extension. And that project was funded in quotes to the northern city limits. This is fantastic news. We're all very excited about this, ready to get started, but we're not done yet. This month, Caltrans and MTC are submitting an application for Solutions for Congested Corridor funding, and SMART is submitting a request for the Local Partnership Program Competitive Grant. And I'll talk more about these two grants later in the presentation. But if successful with these two grants, Windsor to the northern Healdsburg city limits will be fully funded. And just putting this presentation together, talking to the media over the past couple of weeks, I understand that when we're talking about all these different grants that this gets very, very complicated. But as this council knows, it's extremely difficult to find one grant that will fund a project of this size. So a lot of times what is happening is you're trying to fund something like this. It's similar to putting together a puzzle. Next slide, please. So this is our puzzle. This is the one that we're trying to put together currently. And really, it's all about completing the SMART rail and pathway from Windsor to the northern Healdsburg city limits. Next slide, please. So this is what our puzzle looks like today. As you can see, we're currently missing one piece, which includes two grants. We have Solutions for Congested Corridors. That's a request for $56 million. And then we have the Local Partnership Program Competitive Grant. That request is for $25 million. These two grants together come to a total of $81 million. We'll not hear about the success of these two grants until somewhere around June of 25, but I want the council to know we're not waiting. Healdsburg work is already underway. The SMART team is currently preparing progressive design build contract documents to advance this project. Regarding next steps, we will select a contractor in the summer of 25. We'll begin construction in summer of 26. And we will complete this project by the end of 28. And then, of course, we will continue to make progress towards Cloverdale. Next slide, please. So this is my last slide here, but this is a photo of the Windsor station. Construction of the Windsor extension is going great, and we plan to complete this project in the spring of 25. We have a ton of positive momentum going for us right now, and I'm really happy to report that next stop, Healdsburg. With that, be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Can you go back to that picture real quick? Is there a way to zoom in at all? So I think the platform is where it's like toward the top,
North.
right?
Yeah, it's at the very top
Okay.
or towards
Because I
the
think
top.
that helps with people to kind of understand that it's the train station is really more like a platform. than
Exactly.
this-
Can you pull it down just a little bit? There we go, a little more. Maybe not.
I do have to say our roundabout looks better, but that's just me. So it's
You
right
can
there at the
see it
top.
right in the center. You can see
Okay,
the
so-
two tracks going around it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'll open up to questions from council. Councilmember Edwards?
Yeah, if you could explain a little bit on how the pieces fit together. I mean, imagine it's like you look at, we have this section and we get a grant, so we can do this section. And then you have another grant and it fits in another section. Is that kind of how it?
Not exactly.
Okay.
It's an art. But if you look at the puzzle pieces that I had up there, those are state grants, they're local, and then you even have federal grants in there. So all of these things come together to be able to put a project together. It's very rare for us to get one major grant that would just allow us to build from point A to point B. A lot of times it takes several grants putting them together. In this case, 5 or 6.
So you were funded to Healdsburg and then you got another grant and that takes you another next step.
Another next step, you're always looking at a usable segment. That's why when we're looking at this, going to the northern city limits, I mean, that's what I said, but really we would want to try to get to Lytton Springs Road is the goal there.
So you'd be prepared to keep going as you get grants.
Absolutely. We're not slowing down. We plan to continue to march towards Cloverdale.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, thank you. This is really exciting.
Very
It's
exciting.
not so long ago, we were all laughing about the idea, right? And here it is. So thank you for that. How many miles is it from Windsor to the Healdsburg Depot? And the major part of that is the bridge, right? Those
Yeah.
tracks there,
So I believe it's 5.5 miles. 5 miles.
5 miles.
Yep. So
Okay.
yeah, this total stretch, I believe, is 8.3 miles that we're looking at.
And then the Windsor, you're saying spring of 2025, that will be done, and then starting towards Healdsburg in when did you say?
Summer of 25. Yeah.
Summer of 25.
So we will hire a contractor, we'll bring them on board. Of course, as you know, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. We would anticipate starting construction in summer of 26.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
We do have gold shovels to kick that off if you do need those.
We have gold shovels too. Yeah.
Kelly?
I recently read about a state law change that would allow for the potential of a stop to happen in Geyserville. And while that's outside of our city limits, I know there's a lot of folks from Geyserville who are very interested in having a train stop in Geyserville. And I'm curious, is that something that SMART is considering at this point, and what would that look like?
Well, that's going to have to be a decision that'll be made by my board. But I will likely bring that maybe in November, maybe here in just a couple of weeks, I'll bring that to the board to take a look at. If not, it'll be December, but I'm going to try to do it in November. Yeah, that all started with me going and presenting at a chamber meeting in Geyserville. And I got the question, why don't we have a station? I was like, well, it's the law. It's in our enabling legislation that you can't have a station. And so I put it up on the big screen so everybody could read what it said. And they said, well, can we change it? And I was like, well, language like this doesn't just end up in enabling legislation. And so we started having that conversation, but everywhere I went, people were very supportive. And so Senator Dodd ran that legislation to make the change. So it didn't say that there will be a Geyserville station, but it made it so that it is possible to have the conversation. So if our board is open to that, that's obviously something we're interested in doing. That could be helpful for us, beneficial long-term. I talk about this needing a usable segment piece. Being able to get to Geyserville would get us halfway to Cloverdale, create that usable segment. So yeah, we're definitely interested in having that conversation, but ultimately it'll be up to our board.
Councilmember Harrod?
Can you kind of sketch out the changes that are going to come to the train bridge here in Healdsburg, cosmetically, structurally, so on?
So I will start this, and then my backup is my chief engineer here in the back, and maybe he'll need to come in and clarify. But my understanding is that we will want to replace that bridge. We stopped and had dinner before we came over here, and I was asking him that exact question, is how will they do that? And I'm assuming it'll come in with a crane and take sections out, but he said there's several different ways. Bill, do you want to come up and maybe provide a little insight to that?
Good evening, Council. Bill Gamlin, Chief Engineer with SMART. Yeah, so at this point, we are looking at replacing that bridge. I mean, we still have to do some more studies and more investigations, but it's a very old bridge. Some of those spans are over 100 years old. The foundations that are supporting that bridge are dating back to the late 1800s. We don't even know a lot about them, and seismic standards have changed. The bridge doesn't meet the spatial requirements it needs for railroads these days, so it's basically at the end of its useful life.
Were you interested in how it would come down?
I think, no, I'm happy with the answer. That's fine. I know some people, it doesn't bother me so much, but some people are concerned about what it will look like, in terms of those trusses that sort of mirror the Memorial Bridge, the car bridge, if you will. If those will be there or not.
Yeah, so again, we're looking at a new bridge. What that will look like at this point really hasn't been determined. It may have a similar look to what is there today, but we'll delve into that as we get into design.
Thank you.
I had a couple questions, really more related to the path, because that's the other part that I think is really exciting about this, because it's relatively flat between here and Windsor. So I'm assuming that as the train's moving forward, the path is getting done at the same
Absolutely.
time. But we also had a lot of people that are interested in the active transportation and walkability and bikeability of Healdsburg. And especially, we heard a lot of comments when we were up at Enzo from some of the residents up there about continuation of the Foss Creek Trail. Right now, our plans are kind of go into the street a little bit, not in the street, but we're redoing Healdsburg Avenue all the way north.
Mhm.
But can you talk a little bit about what you're, looking to do or what the possibilities are? Because I know the tracks are pretty washed out behind the buildings back there.
Right, yeah, there's definitely going to be some challenges in this area. This is not going to be an easy area to build the pathway. But, we need to get in there, we need to study, we need to look at what's going on, and then we'll work on a solution. Bill and his team have done a great job. We've had some other very challenging areas that we found solutions to. So I'm confident we'll figure something out in there, but it is going to take further study and just the understanding that's going to take some time to figure it out.
Okay. I appreciate you coming down and giving us this presentation and update. I think my favorite quote from you that I've repeated is, the first dollar is always harder than the last dollar.
Absolutely.
Since you've said those words here, in the presentation where we're discussing about the location for the stop, it's really hit home when you're seeing some of the opportunities that are popping up. And I think the other big thing that we're not really talking about is with the SMART train coming, it also triggers an opportunity for a whole bunch of other infrastructure and transportation grants that
Right.
we'll be able to access as a city. So there's a lot of exciting stuff about.
A lot of exciting stuff. And you never know about these grants until, you get the phone call that you've been awarded them. But, when in this particular, the Solutions for Congested Corridors grant that we're talking about, there's only two entities in our area that can nominate for those. It's MTC and Caltrans. And we have both of them submitting this project. They're co-sponsoring it. So our chances are really, really good on this one. So we'll keep you posted. And I think good, exciting things are on the way.
Good. Thank you.
More good, exciting things. Okay,
Thank you. All right. That was very exciting. Next up is city manager reports.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. In keeping with our agenda tonight, I'll be pretty quick and just have a couple of updates. But first off, I did want to let everybody know, and we shared this with the council. I know we had some rain and I know we're getting later in the year, but we will be under a red flag warning starting tomorrow at 11 a.m., running through as estimated right now, 7 a.m. on Thursday. So it is still dry out there and we do have fairly heavy winds up to 30-some miles per hour coming in the next couple of days. Just asking everybody to keep alert, keep an eye on the news and remain vigilant. There will be, in all likelihood, some public safety power shutoffs in the county at higher elevation. That is not forecast for Healdsburg, and we're not expecting that at this time. Healdsburg will host one of the community resource centers that PG&E periodically sets up in the vicinity of power shutoffs. So that will, as it was at the last red flag warning a month or so ago, be at Healdsburg Community Church. It's just a place for people who are impacted to get Wi-Fi and charging, snacks, a place to rest. It's not really designed. We hope we won't need it for our residents, but it is a resource that the churches and PG&E are graciously providing for people in other parts of the county who need some support. So that will be open pretty much all day tomorrow is the plan at this point. But otherwise, we just ask people to, again, keep an eye on city information channels or the news. Nothing out there at this time of great concern, but it's dry and it's windy. So we will be on a little bit of a higher alert. And one other update on the much happier side in terms of fire safety, just want to remind, I know the council knows this. I'm grabbing for the date real quick, but I think it's December 3rd. The ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
Did I do that right? Thank you. In the early afternoon on December 3rd, we will do a ribbon cutting to celebrate. I'm a little ahead of this one, but we have the date locked in and I want to share it with everybody. Celebrate the opening of the new fire substation, which is rapidly nearing completion up on Healdsburg Avenue at the north part of town. As of today, that project is on time and that project is on budget. So I credit to our public works team leading the project and our fire department team who are partners in every detail of putting that together, but I know it's been a very long time coming. So if you drive up there, it looks like a fire station at this point, and we're working on some details. So we've got just about a month and look forward to seeing everybody out there to cut a ribbon and celebrate that new facility. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Next up is public comments on items on the consent calendar and non-agenda items. This time is set aside to receive comments from the public regarding matters of general interest not on the agenda, but related to city council business. Pursuant to the Brown Act, however, the city council cannot consider any issues or take action on any requests during this comment period. So at this time, I'd like to open up public comment. So if you wanted to come up and read your letters, welcome. And then can you just make sure the green light is on?
There.
There,
Okay.
perfect.
All right. So I'm Maria Hadley. I'm one of the second grade teachers at Healdsburg Elementary. And every year, the second grade studies community. It's their project-based learning unit for the first part of the year. And every year we do a fundraiser for community service. This year, we decided to support a school in Tennessee that was impacted by Hurricane Helene. And we have written letters to the children, and we are doing a coin drive at our school to send to them to help support them. So I'm going to let the children tell you about the disaster and read some of their letters.
Welcome.
We are raising money to help the people in Newport, Tennessee, because of the hurricane that caused a terrible flood. One of the schools was damaged and 5 students lost their homes. 2 teachers lost their homes. Now trees and mud are everywhere. This money is for the people who had a hard time because of the hurricane and flooding. It will help the students buy supplies for their school. The money will help the people who lost their homes. Please bring coins and dollars to support the children at Northwest Elementary School. Thank you for helping us support this community.
Thank you. Welcome.
Dear Aloysius, my name is Violet and I am 8 years old. I like to play volleyball.
I also like to read Lord of the Rings. What is your favorite sport? I am so sorry about the flood that damaged your community. Your friend, Violet.
Thank you. Welcome.
Dear Benjamin, my name is Asher and I am 8 years old. My favorite thing to do, play video games. One thing about me is that I have a brother named CJ. Do you play any sports? I live in Hillsburg and there are a lot of dogs. I'm sorry to hear about the hurricane and floods in your.
Thank you. Welcome.
Dear Axel, my name is Ricardo and I am 7 years old. I'm in second grade at Hillsburg Elementary School. I heard that Hurricane Helene hit your school and town. I'm sorry that it caused damage to your community. I hope you and your families are safe now. My school is holding a fundraiser for you. Second graders gave presentations in the other classrooms to ask them for donations. We will send the money there to help the people who need it. I hope it helps. Your friend Ricardo.
Thank you. Welcome.
Dear Liberty, my name is Marigold. I am 8 years old and I am in second grade. My principal, Mrs. Doherty, said she was the principal at your school. She said Hurricane Helene caused flooding that damaged your town. I am sorry that some of your homes and buildings were damaged. I hope you and your family are okay. We don't have hurricanes here, but we do have floods. We also have earthquakes and fires. My school is holding a fundraiser to send money to Northwest Elementary. I hope it helps. Sincerely, Marigold.
Thank you. Welcome.
Dear Azalea, my name is Alexander Vargas Chavez. Our teacher told us that your community had a flood. We are collecting money, sending money to your school to help families who lost their belongings. Sincerely, Alexander.
Thank you. Hang on a second. Thank you. When we're done with public comment, we would love to get a picture with everybody holding their letters, if that's okay. Yes, welcome.
Okay, the light's on, right? Hi, my name is Michael Havel. I've been here last time, first part of August, when you had your first meeting. And I talked about two issues. One was about house inspector who came to my house to inspect a new heater in my attic and didn't have a ladder and was ill prepared to get one. And the other was about the horrific traffic on the street I live on, Ferrero Drive. And a gentleman over there took me out of the meeting, asked me for my information so that they could get back with me and tell me exactly what happened. Never heard a word. Then about 5 weeks later, Mr. Edwards shows up at my door asking for his vote, my vote for him. And I went over it, he remembered it, and he diligently took down my name, address, and everything and said, I think someone will get back with me. That never happened. I don't know where the disconnect is on this. I don't know. I don't think you do it maliciously, but somebody doesn't pay attention. So whether it's your city manager who ignores what you say, or in this case, the police department who ignores what he says, I don't know. But it's gotten so bad that my neighbor across the street, who has two young children, one about that age, 8 years old, puts a sign out in the street when her kids are playing. It's one of these fluorescent lime green signs with a flag. It says slow. And she puts it out there until her kids are finished playing, and then she takes it in the house. So you need to do something. I don't know what it's gonna take to get you to do something, but I'd hate to think someone that small get run over. So I'd like to see some action. You don't have to tell me, you don't have to promise you're gonna get back with me when you don't. But do something. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Welcome.
Good evening, Mark Horn. I have a question, or I guess a comment about the SMART train arrival, and unfortunately, general manager and engineer are no longer here. But last summer at the workshop at the senior center, General Manager Cummings suggested that the railroad bridge would need to be replaced. And so here we are 14 months later, and the answer is the same. And given the kind of stature of that bridge in the community's heart, I think there has always been an assumption that whatever became of the bridge would be reminiscent of its existing self. And yet last summer, the suggestion was the redwood logs that were pounded into the river 150 years ago are no longer an appropriate foundation, which sounds entirely plausible. But that suggests not only will the bridge be replaced, but the piers themselves will be replaced. And so I'm wondering, where was the offer from SMART to involve the community to create something that is iconic, or at least representative, since it appears that that bridge is going to go away? So thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? And then we had a couple of questions.
I just wanted to ask how we can donate to the school.
So we have jars, collection jars at school, and the children are going to count the money, but it does have to be cash. It can't be a check at this time because the district processes the money for us. And so it has to be cash, but you can drop off a donation at any collection jar at our site. And we're at 400 First Street.
Great, thank you.
Did you have a question too?
And more of a comment.
Okay.
It was interesting earlier that I was reading to some of these students earlier, and it was very nice that they were looking forward to coming to see their city government and to do this presentation. So it's nice to see you here where I work. Thank you.
All right, so with that, I'd like to close public comment, and if you want, come up here and we'll take a picture with your letters. With the Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and then the other question that you had, we'll pass on to Smart. We still have some time, and so we'll get that to them. All right, next up is the consent calendar.
I move we approve this consent calendar.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that passes. We have no public hearings. We have no old business. So I'll move on to new business. And this is Information Technology Project and GIS update. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Higley and City Council. My name's Adam McKenna, Chief Information Security Officer, and tonight here with me is Greg McHugh, our Geographical Information System Specialist. We're very excited to present some of our work that we've done over the past year. Tonight, we're going to look at 4 impactful projects that we've worked on. And next slide. We're going to start with our GIS rebuild project. And Greg will talk about that in just a moment. Then we'll talk about our Sonic Dark Fiber project, moving on to the Plaza Wi-Fi enhancements that we've done. And my personal favorite, our cybersecurity initiatives that we've taken care of. I'll pass the presentation over to Greg, who will talk about this rebuild project that we've been working on. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to present for you. Sorry about that. Thank you for the opportunity to present here. I'm the newest GIS guru here at the city. I've been here for about a year and a half. And one of the key initiatives that we undertook upon my hire was a rebuild of the GIS infrastructure here. Really, the whole goal was to provide a solid foundation for GIS on which we could build the existing infrastructure we need, as well as for modernization into the future. Next slide. This slide here is kind of an encapsulation of the challenge that we faced, which was a number of disparate data systems, some old and outdated infrastructure that we needed to update and modernize, as well as the existence of a cloud infrastructure where we had a hosting provider up in Canada. So some significant challenges with scaling the application as well as building for the future here that we solved with this modernization of the GIS infrastructure. Next slide. So what we did was we really rebuilt the core software, data, applications, and workflows here that all the different city departments use, as well as the public interacts with the GIS here at the city. A big part of the design was to, enable recommended best practices in terms of both IT as well as GIS, and eliminating single points of failure was another key design build considerations for this project. This slide that you can see here shows the single point of entry where all of the folks here at the city, as well as people in the public, can gain access to this, what we refer to as both a system of record, a system of insight, as well as a system of engagement. Next slide. Here you can see how that system of insight is used primarily for things like the growth management ordinance. You can see up on the map here the land use, land classification data that folks like Jeff and Andrew and Scott will use to make decisions about how we plan for future growth. And you can also see one of the key areas that we operate here with almost every city department and workflow is the addresses and the building footprints and the parcels. They're kind of the core of everything we do in GIS and here at the city. And of course, you can see there the The attribute information, of course, is another key consideration, as you can see on the pop-up for the Foley Family Pavilion there. Next slide. So now that we've undertaken the process to rebuild this foundation and get it to the point where we can really build for the future and plan on, what do we want to be doing a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. We now have that foundation and that infrastructure to do that. And we're going to undertake an initiative to really clean up the data now that we have the schema and the databases kind of solid and complete with where we need them to be. And some of the future stuff that we'll be working on, in addition to some of the stuff we're already working on, is the weed abatement. I know you guys have heard about that a little bit from the fire department in the past. Really successful project, getting that delivered this year. Also, affordable housing dashboards for engagement with the public on what we're doing with affordable housing here in the city, as well as emergency services dashboards for allowing folks to figure out the quickest way to get out of town in the event of a flood or a fire or an earthquake or what have you. So that with that, that's really the core foundation for the next step, and I'll hand it back over to Adam for the sonic fiber.
Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate the work Greg's done on this. He jumped right in when he started with the city, and it's been over 9-month project to do this part of the rebuild. And he's taken it with stride and brought it to the finish line. We're really proud of that with the team and department. Next slide, please. Okay, moving on to some of our other big projects. So one of the things that's most exciting for me as an IT leader is being able to bring dark fiber into the city. It's not something that every city is able to do. And a city of our size generally has some challenges with that. We were able to partner with Sonic to bring dark fiber in for our city infrastructure. And when I talk about dark fiber, the biggest question I get is, what is dark fiber? And so the easiest way to describe it is when we get internet at home, we get what's called lit service. And that means that a service provider is giving you a service over their connection. And so we use lit connections here for our internet. However, we also have to connect our sites to each other. And so those are our site-to-site connections. And that's how data travels from the police station to the community center to the senior center. It's the site-to-site connections. And so when we do that, in the past, we've had to still use what's called lit service. And that's very costly, or the trade-off is you go with slower connections to have an efficiency there. Moving to dark fiber, we remove that ISP or internet service provider out of the equation, and we connect a single strand of fiber from our equipment in one location to our equipment at another location. We then control the speed and what travels across that with no middleman. It not only allows us to go with much faster speeds, it allows us to upgrade those speeds with our own equipment in the future, but it also allows us to do more things with compliance, such as CGIS compliance for data that can travel across our network, or ensuring speed equity amongst our sites. Next slide, please. So I'm really happy to share that when we partnered with Sonic, we were able to keep our internet and network costs flat while increasing our speeds exponentially. So our 2 lit connections, our internet connections, we are now live and working at 5 times the speed that we were going at before, 5 gigabits. Our dark fiber connections, we have a few of those lit right now. Our City Hall data center to our police department data center is running at 20x speed as before. Again, no cost increases, but that helps with things like data backup and disaster recovery planning. We've also brought our senior center online, as well as Plaza Park. And we have a number of other sites that will be coming online in the next few weeks. Next slide, please. Speaking of Plaza Park, as most of us know, we have released enhanced Wi-Fi in the plaza. And this is really exciting for us because I think it was almost a year and a half ago, we talked about what should we do for public Wi-Fi in the plaza. And we knew we had old age equipment and we wanted to deliver high-speed internet there. there are a couple challenges. One is to do that, we needed to get internet to the plaza. Well, the dark fiber allowed us to do that. We also needed to figure out a way to deliver it within the plaza. And so we went through multiple design sessions. We looked at placing antennas up within the cupola of the gazebo. We looked at how can we place antennas around the plaza. And we settled on installing wireless access points on a number of the light poles within the plaza. I'm happy to share that we now have greater than 40x speed increase within the plaza and bursts up to 300x speed. That translates to up to about 700 megabits per second if you're in the middle of the plaza. So that's pretty fast. Next slide, please. As far as the layout and design, we have great coverage in the plaza. If you're in the center, you're going to definitely get those super fast speeds. As you hit the extremities, you're still online with our Wi-Fi. I've walked the perimeter of the plaza, and pretty much everywhere on the sidewalk, you're getting some sort of Wi-Fi connection if you want it from us. But definitely if you're in the middle, you can absolutely work and play and do whatever you need to do while you're in the plaza. And so that's really fun. Next slide, please. As far as how we implemented this, you can see right here, we put some wireless access points on the light poles, as I suggested. They blend in pretty nicely. Most of the time, these access points are a nice big gray box. And we worked really hard to get these camouflaged a little bit more so they don't just stand out when you're just walking through the plaza. The other exciting thing to share about the public Wi-Fi in the plaza is the speed increases are extending to our other public Wi-Fi locations. So the senior center and community center, those same speed increases will be there as well. In fact, senior center, because they've got their fiber, they're already seeing those enhanced speeds. Next slide, please. Moving on to cybersecurity. So this area of conversation is a little more interesting because this is all about managing risk for us in the city. I think all of us have seen the number of local agencies getting breached has grown. The downtime, the remediation costs, those have all increased as well. I know down in the Bay Area, there was a relatively large city last year that was down for somewhere between 6 and 9 months before they had all their systems back online. They have an IT department of approximately 90 staff, and I think their IT budget is near the budget of the city of Healdsburg. And so it doesn't mean throwing more staff and more money at this is how you solve it. What you have to do is minimize your risk, and you have to have a layered approach. And so a couple of the things we look at is, first of all, is having our cyber liability insurance. They also have very stringent requirements on how to qualify for their insurance. And so we follow those steps first, but we also look at what the city of Healdsburg needs specifically and implement that as well for our cyber program. Us in Healdsburg, we see thousands of potential security events on our network every week. And that's a lot of data to sift through when we're trying to help keep city manager Kay's computer working, or make sure that we can innovate and bring new solutions to the city. So one of the things we do is we make sure we have tools that help us be efficient with all of this data and everything we have to do. And we'll look at a couple of those in a minute. And then the last point that I want to talk about before we look at a couple more slides and tools we use is the premise that we should not assume if we're going to have a breach at some point. It's more of when. And so how are we prepared for that? And next slide, please. And so in the past year, we've implemented a number of tools. We have a number of additional tools that have been implemented previously. We use what's called the defense in depth strategy. We layer tools upon tools so that if something gets past one layer, it's caught by the next. You could think of a medieval castle with a drawbridge and a moat and towers and high walls. Each of those layers is designed to do something. And if someone gets past one layer, there's that ability for that next layer to protect us. So with tools, we've implemented multi-factor and single sign-on. Some of us have seen that. We have change tracking capabilities so we can watch what happens on our systems if they change when they're not supposed to. We've implemented network security using our identity services engine that looks at the context of someone connecting to our network. Where are they? What should they have access to? Who are they? That really helps us prevent unauthorized people from just plugging into a jack somewhere around the city or hopping onto Wi-Fi and getting to a place they shouldn't. We use data aggregation tools such as our Splunk SIM, our security information management system that gathers tens of thousands of log entries per day and correlates them into digestible information for IT, so we don't have to sift through all of those that we otherwise would. We also are using tools that just start to touch on the area of AI. And so we're able to take security events, and we'll see this in just a second, and have that set of data be analyzed for us and find things that we wouldn't normally see in the same time frame that we would see it, and help us find risks before we would normally see them. If we move on from that, though, as I said, we have a layered approach. So we do third-party penetration testing as well. They not only look at our network, they look at our processes. I'm happy to report that our external testing, which is people trying to break in from outside, they could not get in. So very happy about that. Internally, though, when we connected the devices that test this, they also could not get past our ICE or Identity Services Engine. We did, however, turn that off because you never know when something's not going to work the way you want it to. And we did have vulnerabilities, and we expected to find some. In fact, we knew we would find some. We had roughly about 36 vulnerabilities ranging from very low, medium, to something we should take care of soon. I'm happy to report that the IT team has already squashed 6 of the 36, and most of those were the high vulnerabilities. The final area that they, of course, call out in the pen testing is staff action. That's when someone on staff does something they shouldn't do, and it exposes us to a security risk. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. In addition to all of that we do, IT has draft IT security policies for everything from AI to network access that we are working on right now. We also have a draft cyber incident response plan that not only talks about the procedures we'll take in a incident, but looks at things like what happens if it's ransomware, what happens if it's a phishing email, and how are we supposed to respond to that. We've implemented what's called a mutable offsite backup. And so one of the things that happens with threat actors is they try to destroy your backups. So once they infect your environment, you can't restore. Immutable means you can't change it. And so we take immutable backups and bring them off-site so that if even our backups were impacted, we could still restore. Might take a little while, but we can get our data back. And finally, staff training is a critical area for us, as that is the area where we're most likely to get infected. And we'll look at that again in just a second. Next slide, please. This screenshot, just really briefly, is our security information event management. This is just one of the many dashboards we look at to show us how user activity is working on our network. We can see the accounts that we're watching. We can see if devices are having issues over a certain period of time. And we get alerts that move right over into our ticketing system that allows us to act quickly. Next slide, please. This product right here, this is the extended detection and response system that I was mentioning. It shows 47 random events that happened on our network. Now, I know how this happened, and it's not actually a security event. So we're safe. But it took those 47 different events and summarized them into readable English for us to look at and understand what was happening. And had this been an actual security event, we could have very quickly addressed it and then logged and tracked all of this right here. And again, this is bringing information from 14 different products we use that look at very specific types of attacks on our network, and it correlates it all into one summary for us. Next slide, please. Finally, this graph right here, all of us has probably seen a phishing email a time or two. Some of us may have even clicked on one. And over the last year, since we implemented phishing training for our staff, we've seen huge improvements in the likelihood that staff will click on a phishing email. That's just one of the areas we work on for training. The other is that we offer annual cybersecurity training as a requirement from our cyber liability insurance. So our training program, which we plan to start expanding, has had marked improvements and again, is the area where we can have the biggest impact on reducing our risk. Next slide, please. So again, those are just a few of the impactful areas that numerous other projects, but we're happy to answer any questions on these or anything else we can.
Thank you. I have a quick question on the plaza where you had the increase in speeds and you had the different locations. If everybody that was there for Tuesdays on the plaza was logged in and streaming while they're enjoying the music, how with the dark fiber does that slow things down quite a bit or not as much?
Great question. So we over I believe it was a weekend or two ago, we had the Los Muertos event out there, and we saw roughly 300 connections throughout the day. So it wasn't all at once, but it was a blip on our radar as far as speeds. Now, if everybody was live streaming at the exact same moment, there might be some slowdown, but the system's pretty well designed to get some good content out if we want to do that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Kelly?
I had a question about just the fiber in general and kind of the way that you guys are, is it currently all above ground over the utility wires, or it's all underground, or it's a combination? And I know Sonic typically does their consumer delivered above ground, and I'm wondering, given the upcoming major undergrounding projects that the city's having on Healdsburg Avenue and Grove Street, if you guys are having a conversation about laying the future foundation for undergrounding as we do electrical and other utilities, if we're also going to be doing fiber.
Absolutely.
And
So,
March Avenue.
I'm sorry?
We're
And
undergrounding on March Avenue?
Well, I don't know. We're gonna be doing street improvements there.
Oh, sorry, I was talking about just the electrical
Yeah.
improvement or
Yes, so Sonic typically for the city, they wanted to ensure that we could hit any of the facilities we wanted to connect. And so they use a combination of undergrounding and aerial, both on our poles or PG&E poles, where whatever they need to do to hit our sites. As far as expanding in other areas, that's certainly conversations we're having and encouraging because, for example, we have the fire station, the fire substation, and we want to ultimately be able to connect that up to the dark fiber as well.
I'll just add some of it's location specific. We've got, downtown has a lot of underground. And so downtown, they used underground. We've actually did a lease with Sonic that came to this body, I think of probably 4 or 5 months ago. That was for a stretch here along Grove Street, which helped us get from here to the main fire station on Grant. But it is for our project a combination of both above ground and underground, including some conduit that goes under 101, which will help us get to the corporation yard as well, which will be the first time we'll have a direct connection out there.
So from the fire substation, you could.
Potentially.
Councilmember Edwards.
Yeah, since we are doing a combination of above and below ground, are we using any type of SD-WAN since we've got that dark fiber?
So, yes, we definitely do SD-WAN. And the good news is we use that where we need to. However, because we can do dark fiber and it is direct connect, it actually acts as if the two switches that we're connecting to are literally sitting next to each other, even though they could be miles away. And so, software defined network, we can do that. In fact, we use that sometimes to stand up a site if the site's not quite ready to go. And our equipment's designed for that. We can use cellular, we can use any other type of connection temporarily and immediately bridge the two, and you don't even know the difference.
I guess to get from being so geeky on this, it's a backup system so that if one goes down, we have another way to communicate.
We have a very efficient set of redundancies for our connections that we use.
Very good. And we were looking as far as getting information out to the public. Are we able to, when they sign in, there is that permission screen. Is there a way to possibly in the future have announcements with that or public information that would be when you log on?
there's a lot of flexibility with what we can do there. And so we could certainly look at options that use the splash screen for other purposes.
All right, great, thank you.
All right, with that, I'd like to open it up for public comment. Members of the public? 1, 2, 3. No? All right, we'll close public comment. We didn't have any action on this one, was just to get the update.
It's an update.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank
Appreciate
you.
all the work and this is actually, I mean, it's a big deal because I remember putting this in our, when we talked about the improvements and our goals and what we're trying to do, and it's great to see these things happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So next up, council reports on matters of interest occurring since the previous. How about we start down here and we'll go across.
It's really just Dia de Muertos, a great success, a great time, great community event. The sense of tradition is deepening with every year, and so it's I want to share some appreciation for all the people with the city who made it happen once again.
Thank you. Councilmember Kelly.
I was able to attend Dia de Muertos as well, and just wonderful, our city team putting in so much energy to bring that beautiful event to life. It's remarkable to see. And then also how much other organizations are doing to honor that tradition. I know the Healdsburg Museum as well is doing a great display for Dia de Muertos in partnership with the community. Coming up, I think it's next week, is an open house event. I think I mentioned before, there is the Northern Sonoma County Air Pollution Control District, of which we are one of 3 cities that is in that district. The district purchased a building in Healdsburg and have relocated their offices from Matheson Street. Any member of the public who wants to learn more about what our air district does. They fund a lot of really important grants, especially for our agricultural community and electric vehicle transition. So I'll send that out via staff. I think they just sent out the invite today, but hopefully folks can come and see the beautiful new space that the Air District is in, because it's a really nice space right here in Healdsburg, and they're going to be able to have a community meeting room space available for folks who want to use that space as well.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I have nothing to report. I was on vacation.
Councilmember Edwards?
Yeah, I was at the Healdsburg Elementary School earlier this evening to kick off the Ruby Bridges events that they have, kind of getting the students understanding the history. And on November 14th, again, this year, we'll be doing the walk to school with Ruby Bridges, where last year, all the local elementary schools, St. John's, Healdsburg Elementary, all participated in that. And it was a really good adventure for the kids to really kind of understand some of their history. So that's coming up on November 14th in the morning. So that's it. And Dia de los Muertos, that was very good food. Really good food. That was spent a lot of time, and the car show was really nice. So that we have lots of different areas of interest, and staff did an incredible job. Nice, safe event, very welcoming, lots of kids, and it was nice to see them out really enjoying the day.
I've got quite the list here. So on the 22nd, I met with Congressman Huffman's district director, who recently relocated from Washington, D.C. To Sonoma County, or actually he's down in Marin. And then I spoke to the second graders, 3 different classes, and just answering questions. Most of them were, what's your favorite thing to do as mayor? I think I heard that question 5 times. So, oh, you guys, it was, ribbon cuttings, speaking to the kids. There's a lot of different answers. On the 24th, I had an NCPA meeting here. On the 25th, this was fun. The True West Film Center did Hocus Pocus. They put that in the Barbieri Park, and that was a fun event. I mean, it was great. I think more of those in different parts of town would be great. Kind of getting back to our community conversations, and maybe do one of those followed by a movie night in whatever different section of town would be great. Then, yeah, the Dia de Muertos event, that was great. I had the honor of being able to welcome everybody at the beginning of it, which is one of the fun things you get to do with mayor. And then met with some of the members of the Healdsburg Garden Club over in the Wetzel Garden to kind of get a tour and kind of what they're working on there. Let's see. And then on the 30th, I went to the Sonoma County Education. They did a offset education. They did an award ceremony for businesses and different individuals that work with people that have some physical challenges or whatever. And it was a very inspirational thing to be able to be there and hear the stories and provide hand the awards over. And then finally, on Thursday, we have a call with Senator Padilla's office with their head of appropriations, and we'll be kind of going through potential asks for the city of Healdsburg. So that's all I have. And I think if there's nothing else, we'll call it a meeting at 7 o'clock even, which means Vice Mayor she guessed the exact time. And tomorrow is election day. And I think things are a little, people are nervous about the national level, but I think what we all really need to think about is how lucky are we that we actually get the vote? A lot of other countries don't even have that chance. So get out there and vote. The returns are really piling up. We have good turnout, so let's keep that going.